Hello everyone, welcome you all. This is Pawan from SDET channel. So from today onwards, we are going to see Java collections framework. So as part of today's session, we'll see some introduction part like what is collection and what is collection framework and what are the different collection types are available in Java. Right. So first of all, let us start with what is collection. So what is a collection? So first let us try to understand this term, what is collection. So this is basic general term which we can use commonly, like group of objects is a collection. So for example, let us say I have multiple students in the class. Let's say student 1 and student 2 and student 3. So all together we can call as a collection of students. And similarly, when I take an organization, we have a multiple employees. Let's say employee 1, employee 2 and employee 3 and so on. So all of them comes under one collection. So collection of employees. Similarly, collection of pens or collection of animals. So we can use this collection term in general, so that representing a group of objects. So that is a simple definition what is meant by collection. So collection is a group of objects, and the collection is representing it is a single entity which is representing multiple objects. Collection is a single entity which is representing multiple objects. But what about the collection framework? So in Java, to represent group of objects into a single entity, we need certain number of classes and interfaces. So collection framework which will provide you those classes and interfaces. So what is collection framework means? It defines the different interfaces and classes by which we can represent group of objects into a collection. So that is a basic difference between collection and a collection framework. So let me just repeat once again with some examples. So what is a collection and collection framework? So for example, let us say a collection. So I have a student 1 and I have another student 2 and I have another student 3. So I have a 3 students. So collectively I will call as a one collection. Collectively I have called as a one collection. So to representing this collection or to representing a group of element, we need a collection. So how we can represent a group of element into single entity? We need a special classes or interface. So for example, in Java, so we have something called array list. So when I say array list equal to new array list, when I create an object like this, I can store a group of elements into array list. So this is a one example of the collection framework. So the collection framework is a group of classes and interfaces by which we can represent a group of objects into single entity. So that is a basic difference between collection and collection framework. So before discussing the collection framework, first of all, we need to know why we need to go for collection framework, why we need to have a collection framework in Java. So to understand this better, let us see one example. Suppose in Java, so if you want to store a value into a variable, so first we will define like this. So first we will have some data type and then we define some variable name, let's say A, and here I'll say something called 10. So what exactly this is representing? Int is a data type and A is a variable, 10 is a value. And similarly, if I want to store one more value into a variable, so again I have to define one more variable and then I can store some other value. Similarly, if you want to store 100 numbers like this, so 100 variables we have to create. So to store 100 variables, we have to create, to store 100 values, we need to create 100 variables. So this is not a best programming practice. So it is not a best programming practice. So what we have to do is to representing many numbers. So here let us consider this each and every value is one object. To representing these all the values, we will create one variable. Let us say I'll create one small variable by using array. So for example, let us say integer a and equal to new int, and here I'll say 100. So when I create an array variable like this in Java, so there is a single variable which can hold multiple values. That means it can hold a group of elements or group of objects. So here every element, so for example, if I create 100 like this, which will create 100 memory locations like this. Let us say here starting from 0, index is starting from 0, 1, 2, 3. So 100 locations it will be created. So in each and every location we can put some value, or sometimes we can also store object elements. So we can use this array which will representing or which can store multiple elements or multiple objects. So it is clear till here, because the collection is nothing but to representing the group of elements as a single entity, which is a collection. So if I just look at this example, so we can achieve this somehow by using array concept, because here if I specify the size here, so you can store some group of elements into a single variable. So if you have some value here 10, if you want to access this value, so I can say a of 0. So by using this index number, I can access the values from this array. So if we just look at this example, in array concept, we have certain limitations. So what are those limitations we have in this array? So now we will discuss this, because to overcome those limitations, collections framework come into picture. So what are the problems with the arrays concept? So let us see here. I created one array, let's say int a and equal to new int of, here I can say some size, let us say I put some 10. So when I say 10 here, which will create 10 different locations, and array will be created like this, and 10 rows will be created. Index will start from 0. So 0, 1, 2, and the last index will be 9, because the index will start from 0. So the last index will be n minus 1 always. So it is 9 here. So we can store different elements here, 10 or 20, 30, 40, and so on. So this is normal array concept. So in this array concept, what is the problem with this is, when I create an array like this, in the array we can store homogeneous data only. So what is homogeneous data means? We can store only same group of elements, so same kind of elements. So that means if array is defined with the integer type, I can store only numbers in that. Suppose if I create this array with the double or string type, I can store only string on that. So that means array will allow us to store only homogeneous data. So homogeneous data in the sense the same kind of data. Similarly, if I create a array with a student class object, let us say here student stu and equal to new student of, I'll say 10. Now observe this, instead of data type I use some class here student. So when I create an array like this, student stu is an array and new student of 10. So in this particular array, so which will create 10 locations, right, which will create 10 locations, let's say 0, 1, 2, and so on. So in every location we can store some student object details, like here one object we can store, and here one object, another object we can store, or here we can store another object. So again here, if you just look at here, when I create an array with the student type, I can store only student information in those locations. It can hold only student objects. But here when I create a student stu, and here I'll say new, I'll say customer, so this is a different class. So this cannot hold now, because the array can hold only homogeneous data. So homogeneous data means all the data elements should be the same type. So we cannot store multiple data elements in the array. So this is a one limitation we have this in array, but still we can overcome this limitation by creating object array. So instead of creating the int, or instead of specifying the student specifically, if I create an object array which can hold everything. So for example, let me create an object, let me create an array with the object type. So this is called object array. So now A is created, let's say new, so let me just say like this, this is an object array. So new object. Now observe this. So here I'll say 5. So now I created an object array. So when I created an object array, I can store homogeneous data as well as heterogeneous data. That means it can hold same data type elements, and I can also store multiple data type of elements. So for example, so it will create multiple locations, 5 locations, and here I can put number, or here I can put decimal number, or here I can put a string, and so on. Similarly, a different type of objects also we can store in this array. So somehow we can achieve this, we can overcome this problem by using object array. So here also we are representing group of objects into a single entity. So group of objects into a single entity. So this is also a kind of a collection. Now we'll see what is the problem with this array. So based on this problem, we can overcome this problem by using collections concept. So when I take this array concept, so the first problem with the array is the array is having a limited size. So for example, when I say 5, that value is a fixed, so I cannot store more than 5 values. So array is fixed in size. So at the runtime I cannot increase or decrease the size. So 5 is a fixed size. So when I define the array, that the size is fixed. So it will create 5 elements. So it can create 5 memory locations, and I can store only 5 elements into this array. And if you are trying to store one more element, it will throw an exception like array index out of bound exception. So that is a problem. Suppose if I created 5 elements in the array, 5 memory locations I created, and if I store only 3 elements, when I store only 3 elements, and rest of the spaces will be wasted. So this is the one problem with the array. So array size is always fixed. So at the runtime we cannot increase or decrease the size. And suppose if I want to store more than these elements, still there is a problem. And if I store less number of elements, still the memory will be wasted. So this is the one problem with the array. And the second problem is, so what does that mean is, array is a fixed in size, means it is not growable. So these are technical terms. Arrays are not growable in nature. So that means at the runtime we cannot increase or we cannot decrease the size of an array. So that means array is not growable in nature. It is not growable in nature. This is the first problem. So the second problem with the array is, size is fixed, and the second problem is we can store only same data type of element. That means homogeneous data. Okay, only homogeneous data we can store in this array. Only homogeneous data. That means same data type of elements we can store in this array. There's a second problem. And we already seen size is fixed, because at the runtime we cannot increase and we cannot decrease the size, and they are not growable in nature. So these are the two problems. The third problem is, so while implementing the arrays, they have not basically used any data structure, underlying data structure concept. So while implementing the arrays in Java, they are not basically using an underlying data structure concept. So it cannot support any ready-made methods. We can say ready-made methods. What is ready-made methods means? Suppose when I create an array, right, if I want to sort some elements, or if I want to set some element is there in the array or not, I need to write a logic for that. I don't have any predefined methods for that. Okay, so because the arrays are not implemented by using any underlying data structure, so that is a problem. So the ready-made methods are not there in the arrays. So this is one more problem. So arrays are fixed in size, and arrays hold only homogeneous data, and arrays are not implemented by using any underlying data structure. So we don't have ready-made methods, we cannot use those methods. And if we want to do any operations on the arrays, we have to write a programming logic. So these are the basic problems with the normal arrays concept. So to overcome these problems, we have collections available in Java. So collections framework. So now we will discuss why we need a collections. So in the normal arrays concept, we have these problems. So we have in fixed size, we can store only homogeneous data, and they don't have any underlying data structure, so we cannot use any ready-made methods. So when you come to the collection framework, so collection framework, so Java in the collection framework, they have provided certain number of classes and interfaces. So we have something called array list, and we have something called list is also an interface, which is array list is derived from the list, and we have something called hash map, and we have something called hash table, and we have something called tree, stack, and so on. So there are so many classes and interfaces are available. So by using all these types, right, we can store a group of elements into a single entity. So what are the additional advantages we will get when you use the collection types over arrays concept? So far we have seen arrays concept, how we can store multiple data type of elements, and also we have seen what are the limitations we have in this arrays, right? So now I'll show you how we can overcome those problems by using this collection types. So let us try to compare arrays and collection. So why we need to go for arrays? Because in arrays we have some limitations. To overcome those limitations, we go for collection concept. So let us compare with arrays and collection. Array and collections. So collection in the sense it can be any collection, like it can be array list, hash map, vector, tree, whatever, linked list, everything, all are comes under the collections. Now what are the basic differences between collections and arrays concept? So we have noticed we have some limitations in array. So what is the first limitation in array? Fixed size. So if you want to create an array, before that we need to know how many elements we are going to store in this array, and then we can create an array, we can proceed further. So the size is fixed. At the runtime, if you want to add a new values or if you want to remove the existing values, it is not possible in this arrays concept. Okay, so we have to write a programming logic. So fixed size. So at the runtime we cannot increase or decrease the size, and if you want to store more elements than the size, it will throw an exception. Similarly, if you want to store a less number of elements based on the size, suppose if I say size is 10, if I store only 5 elements, still the rest of the memory will be wasted. So basically arrays are not growable in nature, but whereas in collection they are growable in nature. Growable in nature. So what does that mean is, at the runtime, if you want to add a new elements, we can still keep on adding a new data elements. And similarly, if you want to reduce the elements, if you want to remove the elements at the runtime, we can remove the elements. So because of the removing, there is no memory wasted will be there. So collections are growable in nature, whereas arrays are not growable. So that is fixed size. There's a first difference. And now come to the second difference is, arrays can hold homogeneous data. Arrays can hold homogeneous data. When you come to the collections, it can hold homogeneous data plus heterogeneous data. Heterogeneous in the data means it can have all kinds of data elements. So different data type of elements can store. So that is one more advantage of collection framework. So homogeneous data plus heterogeneous data also can be stored in the collection. So that's the second part. So third difference is, in the normal arrays concept, so because arrays are not implemented based on by using any data structure, underlying data structure, so ready-made methods are not there. So if I create an array, if you want to search an element, if you want to sort an elements, we have to write a programming logic. Okay, so that means there is no underlying structure. So there is no underlying data structure. So there is no ready-made methods available. So ready-made methods not available. If you want to do any operations on Java, we have to write a programming logic for that. But when you come to the collections are implemented by using some data structure, underlying data structure. So it is implemented by using data structure, underlying data structure. So that means the ready-made methods are available. So ready-made methods are available. So what is ready-made methods means? For example, if I create a normal array, right? So if you want to sort or if you want to search an elements in this array, we have to write a programming logic for that. So instead of array, when I create an array list, right? So when I create an array list, basically what is an array list? Array list is a collection. So when I create an array list, so we don't need to write a such logic for that. So we have a ready methods are there. So sort or search. So we have a ready-made methods are there. So by using those ready-made methods, we can do different operations on the collection. So that means, so there is no underlying data structure for the arrays concept, whereas in the collection, all types of collections are implemented by using some underlying data structures. So that's the reason the ready-made methods are available. So for every collection, there are certain methods are available. By using those methods, we can perform certain operations on the collections. So this is the way we need to understand what exactly collection means and collection framework, and what are the different classes and interfaces are available in the collection framework, right? So this is basically introduction part of the collections, and in the coming sessions I will show you, we will see how we can learn what are the different type of collections, how we can work with the array list, hash map, a tree, vector. So all types of collections. So what are the different classes are available, what are the different type of interfaces are available. So we will see all kinds of things from the collection framework. Okay, so this is the introduction part, what exactly collection means, collection framework means, and what is the difference between collection and collection framework, and why we need a collection framework, and what are the different collection classes and interfaces are available. All right, so that's all for this.